remember that.
Well, here we are, Cloudesarb. These are the refurbished block by Andium, which are being rented. Very handy for the existing school. If you're quick before they demolish it, redevelop it. There's Deputy Tadier. You can have a look at these. Nothing wrong with them from a facility point of view. They're quite nicely done. Nice entrance hall, big load of space. They're maisonettes, ground and first floor. But the shocker is the rent. Very high rent.
Yeah, that's right. As you know, it needed a refurb. I mean, there were some problems with the concrete. The lintels were cracked both in and out, and so these lads have been working on it for quite a while now, a few months, and the inside looks really nice. You can feel the warmth, the heaters have been on, but also, but much better insulation. So from that point of view, it's really good news, and these will make some great homes for new tenants. But as you say, the rents are pretty high. It's £301 a week is your rent for a 2-bedroom flat or maisonette, which works out at £15,600 a year, or some £1,300 a month. And of course, that's supposed to be 90% of the market rate. So if you lift that up by roughly 10%, that gives you apparently what the full market rent would be for those flats in this area.
To my surprise, you say that Social Security, for somebody on income support, if they're on full income support, they will pay the full rent.
That's right. We asked questions quite recently about this, and it wasn't easy to get a straight answer, but it's been confirmed that income support do cover the full rent for somebody who's on income support completely. There is an issue here because, of course, not everyone in these houses will necessarily receive the full income support component. It's entirely possible that you have people in housing or now in Andium who can pay for their or have to pay for their own rents entirely or partially, and so if you're a single mum, for example, or single parent with one child, and you're going to be in there,
and these are all 2-bed, are they?
Yeah, that's right. You're expected to find about £15,500 a year to pay for that. Now, they're not actually up to a Lifetime's home standard. Now, I'm a bit surprised on that, and they're obviously, because they're ground and first floor without a lift, they're not really suitable for some disabled people. Some people could live there. Obviously, it depends what your disability is. It wouldn't make a difference if you were deaf. You could probably live there quite happily. But for some people, they wouldn't be suitable. Yeah, I think it's important to remember that this is a refurb. They're not new flats. They haven't just been built. So I think they've just tried to get them up to the standard they should have been, meeting the so-called decent home standard, which we don't have, but which is a UK standard which Andium try to abide by.
But presumably these have been refurbed. They've been they look lovely. They look very nice from the outside. They've been raised from a thermal insulation point of view. People, they've been there since the 60s. Now their life is extended for at least another 30, 40 years, I would think. So in that time, people who live there could become disabled. Their circumstances could change. I mean, even somebody who breaks their leg temporarily, they need facilities. Is that too much to ask?
No, I think you're right. I think that's why all new builds, especially if they're public buildings or if they're social rented, I think should be built with a lifetime, not warranty, but a lifetime, flexibility in it. I think things like wet rooms are becoming more and more popular because you can use them if you're able-bodied and fit, but also if you become temporarily or long-term disabled or less able, you can also use them. So it seems to make sense to build these kind of things at the design stage. Right. I think that is happening more and more. But
I think we seem to forget. You talk about a mother with a child, or babies are basically disabled people, aren't they? Because they can't do anything for themselves for the first several years of their lives.
That's one way of putting it, I guess.
I mean, but then they got to have pushchairs, and they got to be carried about, and they've got to be always thinking about cleanliness. There's never anywhere in a house to change nappies, is there? You've always got to change them over the kitchen sink or do in the bathroom. Now that bathroom in there wasn't actually adapted for a changing area, really. It wasn't really, and it's a flat. What do you do with the way disposable nappies? Where does all the? It's not really thinking as the 21st century. This is very much of a concept of the 60s.
And I think, as I said, they've just refurbed flat that. At the basic level, they are flats which were still built in the 60s, so I don't think you can make any big structural changes or to do with floor space. They've just reclad them, refurbished them inside, which is good. That's what needed to be done. But certainly, I think you're right. When we're building new flats, new buildings, then we need to make sure.
Well, there will be no shortage of demand for them, and I have no difficulty letting them. I've absolutely no problem with that, except when it comes to the paying. The people who are going to be wanting to be housed what so-called social housing, I doubt very much if they'll be able to pay that rent. They would need a subsidy from somewhere, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I mean, there will be a state subsidy. It's a taxpayer subsidy, and a lot of them may, or some of them may receive the full rent component. Others will have to find some of that themselves.
Now, Andium, a couple of years ago at scrutiny, said their ultimate aim is to charge 100%. They don't want to be charging less than whatever this strange beast is called the 90% of market rent, because nobody knows what a market rent is. Because strangely across here, we've got identical pre-refurbished dwellings. Now they're an awful mix of ownerships and arrangements, because these properties used to be on a 99-year lease, and that became untenable. People couldn't sell them on. So this block here is, as far as you understand it, what's it now? Private ownership?
So it's a mixture. As you said, they're either owned outright freehold, or they're leasehold, with the ownership belonging to Property Holdings, Jersey Property Holdings, which is still a States Department, Treasury.
So that still owns States social housing. It's owned by yet another housing department.
Well, it's not
another housing, but another States Department.
Yeah, it's not really social housing necessarily. It depends how you define it. But what it is a long-term leasehold, and as you've said, for various reasons, not least because of the problems with selling them on. That they offered the freehold to the owners of the leaseholders, and some have taken that up, some haven't, and of course it's administered by Brunel, and Property Holdings will have the say of what goes on along with the. So
Brunel is a housing trust, and they're in the gateway. If you want to get housed in one of those, you have to go through the gateway.
They are in the gateway, but not these flats don't form part of the gateway. So Brunel will do that as part of their management services, so that they've got more than one branch of business, if you like.
I see. Now, just across there's another block there, same looking sort of block. Is that the same status as those?
That's the same. Yeah.
Now, so therefore they've refurbished this one block. That is the extent of the current project, is it here?
It is, but I still believe that there's another block further away in the same estate here, which is also Andium owned, and we could go and have a look at that possibly.
Yeah.
But
the other thing I want to talk to you about is these common areas. Now, they've obviously carved off a bit there to make a bit of garden area, all well and good, but these common areas, whose responsibility are these now?
So these two blocks will have their own common area, so the two blocks which are leasehold and Property Holdings, they've got their own grass areas and their washing area at the back.
And who cuts the grass? Do we know?
It's done by the association, which Brunel administer.
And do they charge for that? Does that become a charge on the rent, or is that?
Yeah, there'll be a charge for that.
But how anybody could come up here and play? It says over there, no ball games. But presumably anybody could come up here and have a picnic, could they? Is this open to the public?
Not technically. It's not owned by the public. It's owned by the association, so that these people own it collectively. Generally speaking, I think people do walk through. It's probably not seen as much of a problem, but you wouldn't. You've got no automatic right to access or to be here as such.
This £300 rent or so they're paying here, that includes a garage space, does it?
Yeah, I mean we could look at the garages. They're further along, but they're basically standard garages.